Let us now explain from the caretaker's point of view how a project, and in particular the content of its file tree, changes over time. Let us go back to our first project. Like every newly created project, it has no file tree yet, let alone any backups. We are going to change that and add some files and new content. In order to do that, we first have to activate the project, which is simply done by pressing the yellow Activate button. We are told that the project is indeed activated. We click on the Show button, and now the background color has changed from blue to red, and the active home directory is created. This does not have any content yet, but it does exist and is shown in the gray area. The path of an active home directory is always the same. It is a project house root plus a PID. In a file manager, this active home directory is a folder FB17 in the workshop, under the project house root. Recall that we defined project as a unit made of 3 parts: a project description, a project tree, and a series of backups. But to be more precise, this is only the definition of an active project in the workshop. Only the active project has a project tree, which resides under its PID named folder in the workshop. Only an active project can be modified and its project tree can be updated. If a project is not active, it is stored in the archive and only has a project description and any number of backups. When it is activated again, the file tree of the most recent backup is revived by copying it into the workshop. The newly created project is now empty and activated, but not modified yet. The content of the file tree hasn't been changed so far. Let us perform some changes now. We add an HTML file named Travel Guide HTML and a folder named pics containing 3 image files. Back to the project in the browser, we click the Reload button. The browser window is updated to the new state. Now we see the new items under the active home directory. All the 5 new items are displayed in green, because this is the color code for new items. Now the project is modified. An active project is said to be modified if either there is no backup yet and the current file tree is not empty, or the current file tree differs from the file tree in the most recent backup. We can also see this in the gray box for the file tree. A project is not modified if and only if all items in the project tree are black. This example project has 5 new items, all in green, so it is modified. Suppose we want to save the state of the modified project with a backup. This is initiated with a click on the Backup button. The form is presented, offering you the option to add an additional comment for the particular backup. When this form is submitted, the backup is created and the state of the project is changed from modified to not modified, because there is no difference between the most recent backup in the file tree under the active home directory anymore. After the backup, the 5 new and green items under the active home directory changed their color to black. Let us perform the last steps of modification and backup once again. We modify the active file tree, and afterwards it looks as follows. The content of the HTML file is changed. Afterwards a file is read, which stands for changed file. The pics subfolder is unchanged, and so are the 2 picture files flag PNG and map JPEG. These items remain black. We added two new pictures, Palace, JPEG, and Suriname River, JPEG, which are displayed in green, the color code for new items. And we removed the Paramaribo JPEG file, which turns the black color to yellow. This is the color code we use in file trees. Black means that the item, file or folder, is unchanged. Green is a new item. Red is a file that has changed its content. And yellow is a color for deleted items. And of course, when we now create another backup, all these items turn black again and the project is not modified anymore. At the bottom we see two backups now. An active project is present in the workshop and native file system and can be used and modified. But often a project becomes obsolete or its content may not be used anymore, at least not at the moment. At that point it may as well be closed again, which means it is removed from the workshop. The Close button does exactly that. The active home directory is removed and the project is returned from the workshop into the archive. If we click on Show again, the background color of the project changed from red to blue and the gray area with the file tree disappeared. Let us summarize the different states of a project so far. It is either inactive, only in the archive, or active and in the workshop. And when it is active, it is either not modified or modified. Note that an active project can only be closed again if it is not modified. If it is modified, you need to make a backup first and store its current file tree. Afterwards, a project can be closed. A project that is done or even has become obsolete can be made inactive and stored away in the archive, like our example project here. But occasionally it may even be appropriate or to even remove it from the archive. This is done with a yellow Discard button. You will be asked for confirmation, and if you are sure, the project is thrown into the trash. Trashing a project is not final, however. The black Trash button in the Caretaker menu allows you to inspect the trash bin. At this moment there is only one project in the trash, the one we just discarded. Each project in this list has a Recycle button attached, which does just that. The project is moved back to the archive. There is also an option to empty the trash bin altogether, but that is a complicated process for the underlying storage system, because items belonging to projects cannot be deleted without the danger of deleting them for other projects too. Instead, a copy of the entire storage with all the non-trash projects has to be made, and then the old storage is deleted and replaced by this copy. And if a project house is not very small, it may be a computational expensive job to perform this action. Emptying the trash cannot be done in the Caretaker GUI. It can be done, however, from the command line with the Caretaker empty trash command. We've now passed all possible states of a project. Each project is in one of three states and in one of three virtual places. It is inactive and only in the archive, or active and in the workshop, or discarded in the trash. And again, an active project in the workshop is either modified or not. We already saw how we create a backup from an entire file tree of a project with a mouse click. We'll now see how such a backup can be revived. Let us consider our previous example project. So far, we made two backups for this project, which are shown in the backup list. Making backups is straightforward, and each time we make a snapshot of the active file tree, it adds one item to this backup list on top of the stack. Suppose we activate our project. Recall that this causes the last backup to be taken out of the hidden archive storage and be unpacked in the workshop as an active file tree. So you may think that the restore button after each backup would cause the according backup to be reactivated the same way. Just put the file tree of that older backup in the workshop again. But actually this is not how things work here. You can only create backups in a project. You can only proceed in one direction. You cannot jump back in time in a project and return to a previous state, at least not by clicking on buttons. Restoring a backup creates a new project, a clone of the old one, but with a different PID. This is what happens if we hit the restore button. Up comes the so-called cache, displaying the file tree content of that backup. It provides a clear button which would empty the cache again and leave all things unchanged. But this is not what we want. We want a clone. And we get one, as we learned from the upcoming message. A new project 9C5F was created as a clone of the first backup from project FB17. We click on Show to see what we just created. And we see our new project. It has a new PID 9C5F, which makes it indeed a different new project, however similar its content. This new PID is created by the same principle all new projects are created, as the SHA-1 value of the JSON object made up of the creator email and the date of birth for this clone. As the creation of a clone always has a later date of birth than the original project, the new PID is indeed a new and different PID. It has the same title, Travel Guide for Suriname, as the original project, but with a clone prefix in square brackets to better distinguish it from the older project. The tags, the location, and the info are automatically inherited. At the time of creation, the clone project is not active, but it has an automatically created backup which has the exact content as the chosen backup from the original project. So when we activate the project, this backup comes to life again. A final look into the archive also shows us that we now have two similar but independent projects, the original and the clone from the backup. No matter if a project is active or inactive, the project description can be edited at any time. Recall that each project has a project description, an optional project tree, which may or may not exist in the workshop, and a list of 0 or more backups of this project tree. Consider the previous project again. Pressing the Edit button opens the editor of the project description. This editor is a form which allows to change the title or the info text, for example. Two values which can always be changed are the tags and the location, which we explain below. From the menu of the Caretaker GUI, we always have immediate access to overviews of the workshop and the entire archive. After the creation of our first project, there's only one item in the archive. Its so-called project tree is just a single project. If this one project is inactive, the workshop is completely empty. If the one project is activated, it is also listed in the workshop. To make things a little less trivial, let us add a couple of projects, 3 more travel guides, and one project to hold standard HTML and CSS templates for all 3 texts. As we see already in the project tree of the archive, 3 of these 5 projects are active. A real-world project house of a productive user can easily hold dozens or even hundreds of projects. And then it becomes increasingly useful to group and categorize these items in the archive. Let us first look at the so-called project tree, which is in this current state rather a flat list of projects. The first project in this list is a project that defines a couple of tools, namely template files for default designs of your HTML documents. The other 4 projects are travel guides. And of these 4 travel guides, the first 2 are about cities in Europe. The last 2 describe countries in South America. If we actually group the 5 projects accordingly, we really turn our flat list into a tree-like structure. This is done by defining the location value of a project. Let us go back to our original situation of a list. For all 5 projects in the list, the location value is empty. Let us change this for the last of the 5, project FB17. We press the Edit button behind this project. The editor for the project description opens up, and there we set the location value to Travel Guides/South America. After submitting the form and returning to the archive, the last project, FB17, is now put into a new branch of a project tree. This way we can define the according location value of the other 4 projects as well. Afterwards, we have a properly ordered project tree. This tree structure is very similar to the hierarchy of a file system, achieved by grouping files in folders and subfolders. But different to putting projects in folders, the location value of a project only affects its position in this tree. Changing it does not break any links from into the project content. Next to the location, there is a second way to group projects in the archive, the tags. Back to the previous state of the archive, the so-called tag index is empty, because no tag has been assigned to any of the given projects. When we edit the description of the, say, last project, we have a text field where we can add any number of tags separated by commata. We add one tag, called Work in Progress, indicating the state, and another one called Travel Guide, indicating the type of the project. When we add tags to other projects as well, the archive may look similar to this. The formerly empty tag index now contains 5 tags, given as 5 buttons. Templates being the tag of 1 project, Travel Guide belonging to 4 projects, and so on. Clicking on such a tag button, for example Work in Progress, displays a list of all projects with this tag attached. In this case, it's just 1. When we add locations and optional tags to all 5 projects in the archive, we obtain a nice hierarchy and order.